Hey guys, I'm a little overdue on an Artemis guide or kind of a display, but that's what I'm going to be doing today. There's a couple things I want to cover, and the main thing is his awakenings. I want to see if his awakening one is actually good. I don't know if it is. It reads really well, but I'm not going to claim anything beforehand. His awaken one, he gets 50% crit rate on his only damaging skill, so therefore it's essentially 100%. Like 100% of the time, it's 50% more crit rate, if that makes any sense. And I just want to see if it really lets the builds be a lot better. It's what I've been saying, but I do need to test it myself. We're allegedly on a viewer's account, so thank you very much to AIM, also known as Bushes, for letting me lend it. I pulled him a lot of Artemis, so as you can see right here, we're gonna have a couple Artemis to play with. I think I'm just gonna test his Awaken 1. Awaken 2, it's more attack. He just does more healing, more damage. So I don't think I need to test that. But in this video, I'm gonna be telling you guys how to build him for both his A0 and his A1. We're gonna see how big of a difference it makes. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna test it and all that fun stuff. And hopefully this will help. Maybe this will be insightful. First off, let's talk about the build. First thing I should go over, which I think will make more sense when we go over the gear, is the best artifact to put on him is the Golden Scarab. Hands down, Golden Scarab, it's not close at all. This gives him a little more attack, and it also gives him rage regen. I mean, like, what else are you gonna use? Are you gonna use slightly more healing? He's a hybrid, right? So this is really the only viable artifact. It's what you're always gonna have on him. You should not take it off. And what this does is because it gives us rage regen, we don't actually need to build any rage regen for him. There's no emphasis that's needed for that. So just keep that in mind. So the main stats you want to focus on for Artemis is you want to have a high emphasis on his attack stat. He's very high attack stat, as you can see, 5,400. That's quite a bit, especially for a healer. So it's not that hard to build that on. And then you also want to have an emphasis on attack speed, crit rate, and crit damage, and then a small emphasis on healing effect, because he is still, at the end of the day, a healer. In terms of sets, Soulbound Arcana I think is best. Don't fully quote me on that, but I do think that this is the best one. I will kind of be stripping some of his gear just because I think it is worth it for the video, and I'll just put it back after. As you can see, you already kind of on this normal gear, you already get the stats that you want. Here you could kind of try out some other stuff, but this one has a healing effect, so I'm going to put this one on instead, get a little bit of healing effect. It gives a little bit of use to these terrible pieces, so that's always great. Over here, maybe this will go on when we swap the gear later, but we're trying to get 100% crit rate here. Attack is pretty high. We do want to focus more on attack on the left. So we're going to look for Warlord pieces, and then we're going to look for Calamity pieces. I think we should probably go with one of these. There's some healing effect here, so I do think this is probably better. And then we want to look for something with crit rate, and then attack bonus, ideally. Maybe attack speed. Here we go. That looks good. And boom. This looks pretty solid. I would like more attack. I do need to say more attack is probably better. Like maybe this could be better, but just the crit damage is really low. As you can see, we got a bit of healing effect. Some rage regen would have been nice, but it's okay. And I mean the gear is pretty good, but it's like 18k attack, and then we have 350% over here. We got 400 attack speed, and it's pretty good. So let's, with this as reference, we're going to go into Gear Aid 1, which I think is the content most important for this. Obviously, Void Rift, he's going to be pretty good. But also, at the end of the day, it's like it's so hard to test in Void Rift. But, so this guy cleared 21 recently with this team because Artemis actually carried a little bit. But right here, we're only going to use Artemis just because I think it could be fun. We're gonna bring all of these guys just because. We're gonna bring this, and then I think this is kind of it. If we want to Omega boost, I would bring like Nissan Day, who gives a little bit of attack speed boosts and all this stuff. But I think this is what I'm happy with. and let's just get into it. Let's just see how it goes, and then we're gonna swap the build, and then we're gonna see. So first, we're gonna put our DPS down. We're gonna put Dolores. He works very well with Dolores and an Invig buff, just because his attack is very important, as I said before. Here we're gonna do that. We're gonna place Laurel wherever, and then we're gonna place Elwyn next, and then we should be good to go. So I'm just gonna wait a little bit until these guys are around this area, and then we're going to pop all the ultimates. We're gonna put Elwyn just for a little bit of extra rage regen, and we're just gonna test. This is more for damage, just because if you're comparing the A1 and the A0, the damage is the main thing that matters, so just keep that in mind. Here we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and then we're going to just keep going. He's doing quite a bit. He's doing 150 to 200,000 per hit, depending on who he's hitting. And that's really good. He's doing a lot. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but it looks like he has very strong single target heals. For what I'm seeing, he's doing about 10,000 for the healing, sometimes 12,000. Although it is hard to see, I will show it after. When I can, but for the most part, it's quite a bit of healing, that's for sure. He's not really successfully clearing these, but this is no pod 121, right? So we're just kind of testing it. But as you can see, tons of damage. The anti-heal is very consistent, very, very good. Artemis is honestly just really solid. And yeah, it's going pretty well, honestly, considering that this was a healer, by the way. But overall, pretty solid, I would say. I mean, you could definitely do better. And I will show him just in like an actual team at the end. But as you can see, 50 mil is really good, considering it's just him. The gear is pretty good, but I think that's a good baseline. And now before we go over to the A1, I'm going to test him in an actual team right now. So we're going to put these guys together. I guess we'll put some, we're like the same units, but we're just going to put Comet and Cyrus in or something like that. And then call it a day. And then we could put like Vieira. I don't know if everyone is geared properly, but we're just going to go into it. We're going to test it out. And we're going to see what happens. Here we're going to put Comet, who is what your traditional DPS would look like. And then we're going to put Artemis. We're going to put him here. Before I place Hollow down there, I will actually see how much healing Artemis does. Oh, pretty like hopefully we can check that out when the guys come from the bottom. But as you can see, we're just going to trigger our ults. Comet's obviously going to do more damage. This is what he's designed for. Artemis is not designed to be the main DPS, but he does a pretty good job. So you do need to cut him a little bit of slack there. He's still like helping them demolish everything kind of. I'm going to Vieira just to execute that guy because I am curious if we could beat this. And Dolores cannot be healed, so that's probably a rip. As you can see, he's healing for like 14,000, 15,000. That's a lot of healing. So his healing output is pretty solid. With no Dolores boost, doing quite a bit of damage, honestly. Like I'm kind of impressed with the damage numbers he does. Though I think I'm gonna keep this going. When I get Dolores back, hopefully it'll be better. And I'll show you guys the damage numbers at the end. Okay, so we barely didn't win. I wasn't really expecting to because, you know, my cycle was off. I was just trying to time them both together. And with both of them being timed, although I will say I think Artemis had better gear. The fact that they're even vaguely close is impressive. Artemis is bringing anti-heals, healing, and all that fun stuff, while Comet is raw DPS. Comet also, I think, is pretty high awaken. Yeah, he's A1 versus the A0 Artemis, so that's pretty impressive. Although, once again, the Artemis gear I do think is better, but whatever. That's besides the point. So here, I guess now that that's out of the way, let's just kind of A1 him. I know this is probably not the best test ever, but like, does it really matter? Let's A1 him. Boom. We get what a lot of people are saying is one of the best A1s in the game. Not sure if it is, but we will see. Now let's look for Soulbound Arcana, and we can ignore high crit rate rolls. Although I don't think this guy has that many low crit rate rolls, unfortunately, which kind of messes it up a little bit. But I mean, it's fine. So here, as you can see, we're gonna get more rage regen, and then we're kind of missing some attack speed, unfortunately. But I mean, I think it's fine. So here we go. Move on over here. I guess the main thing to note with this alt, or with this awakening that we just gave him, is it'll kind of like your gear has to be weird for it to work, because people don't tend to have much gear that doesn't have good stats for what you're trying to do. If that makes any sense to you guys. So I think that makes I mean, it's still kind of awkward to gear things, even if you have his awakening, because you're just used to keeping all your crit rate stuff. And it's a little awkward not to have the crit rate stuff. But now we got that achieved. Here we're gonna look for ideally a low crit rate roll, but I guess I guess we can't really find it because we don't have that much. But over here, I mean, we have low crit rate, so I think this is fine. The stats seem better. Slightly less attack speed, but in exchange we get a little more attack. I don't know. I could do better probably, considering this has no attack speed, but like if I put any of this stuff on, it kind of defeats the purpose of testing the A1. It's just hard to gear people. It's hard to gear heroes that are like have weird requirements, because who's gonna reach those requirements before the heroes are out? No one, right? So it's just a mess. Here, let's test on their own and see how it goes. We're gonna go like this. We're gonna go like that. Wait, no, I messed it up. Here, we're gonna go like this, and then we're gonna bring out Dolores over here, and then we're going to bring out Laurel, and then I'll bring out Hollow when I get her back. And we will see how fast we lose and what the damage looks like this time. It looks like it should be slightly better, I'm hoping, but it's a little hard to say. I will admit. Obviously you could probably test better than I could. It's not a definitive test. As you can see, it feels like he's doing about the same damage. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's hard to say. I do think you should take into account the fact that the gear has to be very strange to get it to work. You have to have the type of gear you would have if you were running crit rate mains. And who the hell is running crit rate mains anymore in endgame? If your early game crit rate mains are great, but like it feels kind of like a hard thing to meet. So I'm not really super sold on the awakening so far, honestly. I know you could argue that I should have organized like some proper gear to go on him here, but I would argue that it's probably better to account for people who don't just plan for every eventuality, because there's nowhere near enough gear slots in this game for anything, right? So you gotta just kind of be very selective with your gear, which means that it's kind of hard to build Artemis. It's A1. So, as you can see, we're doing pretty well. I think he is doing more damage, so his A1 did actually make a pretty decent impact. Obviously, I didn't reach the peak of what his A1 will let you do, just because the gear was not diverse enough, but he actually did quite a bit more damage. It could be a bit of better timing, maybe some Dolores shenanigans, causing some RNG. For the most part, it looks like a 12 million increase, which is about, what, 24% more? Considering we did 51 at the beginning. That's pretty good. I mean, it did better than it felt like it was doing, but it is still hard to say. So let's go with the entire team, and let's see how this goes. And then that should be about it. To the video. Here, let's try to do something pretty similar to what we did before. We're gonna put these guys down. We're gonna put Artemis down. Obviously, there's RNG. There's different timings. There's different placements. There's different targeting, etc., etc. So that's all random. There is no way to influence that. So this is not the most definitive test. Like right now, I timed it a little bit too early compared to my previous run, and now we're putting hollow down when I didn't previously. So stuff like that does make a difference, but hopefully this will give you kind of a rudimentary idea instead of just, me saying, "Oh, his awakenings are good," like I feel like that's not really enough of an answer in order to justify making a video. So, yeah. I've kind of stopped doing kit reviews and stuff like that just cuz I feel like there's less of a point to them than I would like. No flame to anyone who does them. They're fun to do, I will say. But you get the idea. Here, I probably should have been polling Laurel a bit more, but I mean, we're timing them together anyways, so I don't think it matters too much. After all, this is a scuffed test, okay? This is not 100% definitive. Whoa, this is the answer that I'm giving you, and it's definitely right. Sort of test. This is just me going in saying, "Wow, this is kind of cool," and then calling it a day. Because I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that what tests are? You just kind of get a feeling of what you like, and like you could just say, "Oh, I find Artemis fun," and then boom, that's all you need. That's the only answer you need. Then he's good. If you got his A1, that's great. If you like Artemis, then by all means, Soulstone if you want. It's your game, right? So don't take my word as fact. Just follow what you want to do. That has like very little to do with anything, but I just feel like saying that. But anyways, so we're just gonna keep on trucking. We will probably still lose because obviously the gear and the timing is not ideal. Comet could be geared a lot better, which would help us win and would make the power gap between Artemis and Comet much bigger than it is right now. But it's whatever. It's so minuscule. We're just seeing how much damage everyone does. Here we go. Wait a little bit for... Oh, well, I guess there's no point in waiting. Well, GG. Let's see how big the difference is now, if it's like roughly the same. Once again, if you have better gear for A1 Artemis, it will be better. Comet did a bit more. I don't think that matters too much. Artemis did a little bit more. It's not too crazy, but it is decently substantial. I mean, you could say it could be a lot better, and it will do better, but I think on an average account, like this account has really good gear anyways, right? And I would still consider this an average account, as in there is no gear, or there is not a lot of gear in order to make his A1 peak usefulness. So just keep that in mind. So overall, I think the takeaway from this video is I have a rambling addiction. Artemis is quite strong. He's a very good anti-healer. He does really good damage. He's not as good as I think people hyped him up to be. I think he's probably like an A plus hero, maybe an A. I think he's a top 5 healer in the game potentially, but even then, that's kind of hard to argue. Because if we look at the healers, I would say Eloin, Eunomia, Hollow are in the top, are like in the top there. I think Laya is a contender. And then Artemis could be 5th. You could put Vortex 5th. Dolores, if you include Dolores, Dolores is number 1. It depends, right? Like Sadie's decent. Like Artemis is probably better than a lot of these healers, but I'm just saying the club, very exclusive. There's a lot of really good healers in this game. So if you have like Eloin, you're not really gonna need Artemis. Because from what I've seen, he's not very required for things. He just kind of helps in Gear Raid 1. And if you don't have an anti-healer for Gear Raid 4 when it comes out, he's going to be very, very helpful for that. But I do think he got a bit overhyped. I do think his Awakening 1 is a bit overhyped. It's not that substantial. If you bring up the point of just, oh, you have to get lucky enough with gears, and you have to look out enough beforehand in order to get gear specially catered for his A1 like this. Even then, like we don't like what if we had healing effect instead of defense bonus? You know, that would be ideal. What if it was attack speed instead? That would be ideal. So it just brings up the question of having to farm more gear in order to fulfill a very niche sort of baseline. And I will say it does make it far, far easier to build the builds, but it's just in a kind of more end game account. Obviously, early game, his A1 is a freaking lifesaver and is incredibly powerful. But later on, it gets far less usefulness than it did before. So I just think it's a little overhyped, but it's still a very good awakening. I would rate the awakening as like maybe an A tier awakening or something along those lines. If you guys ever want to see me rate like A1s or something, like rank A1s, I think that could be really fun. I might actually make that video. I think that would be so fun. Because it's just gonna be, oh, number one, Praetus. Praetus is A1. Is SSS. Oh, who's someone with a bad awakening? I don't actually know. Like Hatchet. Hatchet's awakening is like good. Sure. That's like it, right? So I think that could be a fun video. If you guys want to see that, please comment down below. But I think that's it for me. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you would like. It's the best way to support me. And I think that's all I had to say. Overall, just Artemis is really, really good. He's really cool. He's really fun. One of the most fun characters in the game, I will say. And he's pretty useful. It's just I feel like he has a lot of flaws that are not to be understated, such as his range, such as kind of not really having as many uses as I would like. After all, in this game, it's better to fulfill a singular purpose than to fulfill multiple, such as like tanks that deal damage generally are not very good because tanks are meant to tank. They're not meant to do damage. Such as healers, meaning to heal, not to do damage. Although Artemis is quite a competent healer, so just keep that in mind. But I hope this was an enjoyable watch, and Destined, signing out.